because of Love is Blind.
Yeah.
What
Anyway, let's
is
be
the
serious.
gist of what happened over the past 2 years?
2 years. Yeah.
Boy,
I
my
went on
internet's
Love is
playing up
Blind.
like a
It was
man.
kind of
Hold
just
on.
like on a whim. I had an incredible experience. I ended up not getting married, but then I kind of was in an on again, off again, on again relationship where we decided to get re-engaged. It sort of started to unravel with the typical like 2023 scandal, everything, social media. And so that was the end of my relationship, the end of my engagement. Since then, I've been able to kind of like just focus on myself and healing, and have started a new relationship and just kind of put myself on a different path. And it's been like better than expected. So it's kind of like a little synopsis.
Oh, better than expected is
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're giving you guys a conversation around, I guess talking to Raven, talking about Raven and her critical inner voice. And I thought it would be a good topic because I think a lot of people can probably resonate with this. We all have some aspect of a critical inner voice, some much stronger than others. And some people have it in different areas. So this is really an important topic to talk about, and how potentially you may be also limiting yourself and your own success through your critical inner voice. I can tell you myself, I have my own critical inner voice. Sometimes I think to myself, am I good enough? You know what I mean? Like, is my skill and my talent, is it good enough? Is it valuable? I have my own critical voice that talks to me, right? And that stems from childhood. That stems from not being encouraged. That stems from being left to my own devices. That stems from certain conversations from certain teachers too. But all in all, we all have this critical voice. And how does that impact us when we're growing up? How does that impact us in relationships? How does that impact in life? We're going to talk a little bit about that using Raven as our proxy as well. And she broke down some really great aspects of her own life to kind of explain where this is coming from. So if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor. We like to go deep here. We're going to break some real stuff down. Like it, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. And let's have that real good conversation. Share this with someone who needs to hear this as well. Let's get into this conversation.
it's great.
Yeah.
Is better than expected because you stopped hoping for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like it's beyond what I could have imagined. Kind of when everything in the thick of everything that was going on, I, was at the lowest point in my life. And it was kind of my first like extreme breakup. But I think really what brought me to a low place was feeling really lonely in a way that I'd never felt before, just like very isolated. The experience in general on Love is Blind kind of shifted the dynamic in my family and my personal life a little bit. So I felt a little secluded from that. And now I'm going through something with my partner who, really in real life, like was my partner. So feeling secluded from having someone else to, really lean on and share with, just discovering like I'm kind of naive. And I think a part of that was ignoring things, but also just letting that small, naive piece of me like really be let down. And I'm like never victim blaming or anything, but kind of let down by that experience with other women. Like, I just wish we could have gone about it differently. And I was kind of like, damn, like I would never do that to someone. That's just genuinely how I felt. So I kind of felt just down about the way that the world works.
So let's break this first part down because I actually do feel for her. First and foremost, she's talking about the experience of being in a relationship, and especially a very public one, being on a TV show. And I really do feel for her in this aspect because all your is on the screen, right? All your stuff is on the screen. All your stuff is in the air. All your stuff is public, and it's very painful because everybody has their opinion, right? And I can only imagine some of the stuff that I've done in my past, some of the experiences that I've had and gone through, some of the painful things I've experienced with women. If that was in public, I might have turned into a monster. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand, right? So I can understand how painful that can be as well. And then she spoke about isolation, that having been in her family and going through the experiences she's gone through, she feels isolated. And I think this is why I feel for her, because you're going to need somebody who also understands where you're coming from, right? So it might not be your partner. It might be a friend. It might be, who can support you in these moments, because having gone through a TV show, someone else who's been on the TV show can understand where you're coming from and some of the pressures you feel. I mean, it helps to have an empathetic partner. It really does. It really helps to have a partner who is empathetic, that is understanding, that is patient with you as well, and tries to understand where you're coming from as to why you feel the way you do. But the best version is having a friend who also has gone through the show. So one of the girls on the show, they're going to be probably the best person to create kind of trust and have a conversation with, because they understand where you're coming from. Now, the key aspect that she mentioned here is also about feeling like she had been done dirty by the women who came out. And you know what? I'm gonna say it again. Absolutely. Now, look, I told you, sisterhood sometimes ain't sisterhood, because if you come up and blow the spot up publicly, you get it. You want to blow up the spot publicly. I get it. Like some of the ladies at least one of the girls that came out here on TikTok, putting TikTok videos, really just wanted to blow him up. Like, do you know what I mean? And in the midst, didn't really care about you in that process. You were a casualty of war. You know what I mean? And so I do understand that. That's painful. It's painful to be in that situation where they didn't even give you the chance to be like, let me slink away, let me get away, let me figure this out, etc. I understand. I do understand that part. I get it. So it does feel some pain in there. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I get it. I get it. And I feel for her in that respect. So yeah, let's get a bit deeper, because I think there's more to the story.
Kind of put me in a dark place. That was really long-winded.
No, we got time. The word naive sticks out to me because it's one of those words. I think naive and jealousy are in the same bucket.
Hold on, pause. I wanted to pay attention to something, and anybody listening you may be able to identify this. She just said something. It's a very long-winded way of me saying something. It wasn't even long-winded. It wasn't long-winded at all. But did you notice that immediately that is a negative connotation of yourself, that you feel like you're, and I do it too, and I know. I'm like, I spoke for too long now. Let me open up the floor to you, right? I sometimes have those thoughts, because what it is coming from is like you haven't really been validated, or at least encouraged in that space. So what you naturally do is, I'm talking too much. I'm doing too much. And what that happens is the person has to be, if a person is wise and they are empathetic, they say, no, you're talking fine. Like, you're good. You're okay. Like, do you know what I mean? And I noticed that, and I was like, I do the exact same thing, because it's like, I'm very conscious of not taking up too much space. And why that is because yes, you're self-aware, but also because you've been told not to take up space. If you've not been told, you've been shown through behavior, don't take up space, be seen and not heard. And so what happens is, when you start to speak, you start to be conscious about, I might be talking a bit too long here. I might be doing too much. Maybe I'm I'm taking up too much space right now. I don't want them to think that I'm arrogant or being I don't care about people's feelings out here. So let me okay, I'm talking too long now, guys. Like, let me leave it alone. And it's because, again, we have a cautious way of looking at things, because we're afraid of the rejection we may feel from having to take up space, because we've never had the opportunity to be able to we never had the opportunity to be able to take up space, right? And more than likely, also, you're a type of person too who is very sensitive. So match the two together. Your nature is to be sensitive and to be responding to the environment and people around you, to take stock. But also your nurture that you've had, your nurturing that you've had, also has told you don't take up space. When you put the two together, being sensitive and receptive, and then put in don't take up space, you become more cautious about how you enter spaces, whereas other people won't mind. Okay, other people don't have that mindset because their nature isn't that way. So even if they get told or they are nurtured to not take up space, they don't mind taking up space, but that's because of their nature. So their nature won't be changed by the nurturing. Whereas somebody who already has a nature of being sensitive and receptive, you add the fact that don't take up space, they're gonna do what she just did. Oh, I was long-winded there. I didn't mean to say it too long, because they're trying to be receptive to the environment. Do you know what I mean? So totally understand where she's coming from. I get it.
That we often accuse other people of that, but nobody
Okay.
admits to it.
Okay.
Like nobody says I'm jealous, right?
Okay.
But we're like, that bitch is jealous.
Yeah.
And nobody says I'm naive, but people say that's a naive person. So I think that's really cool to take ownership of that.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for you to be naive?
I definitely was like, that would never happen to me. I, build meaningful relationships. I start things with the glass full of trust. After going through that experience on both sides of it, like in my relationship, but also how I kind of felt about what happened with the different women and how that played out.
And then I was listening to Nick Vial's podcast this morning, and
they skipped past that. That was actually a really good conversation. She starts saying about how for her, she's naive, and then she starts with the glass fully full, which again is what we call the hopeless romantic type of archetype, right? It's an archetype. That person's a hopeless romantic. The reality is that the person needs to learn how to have boundaries. They don't want to have boundaries because they want to believe in the fantasy. That's just the reality of the situation, right? Like your nature is to be that way. Your archetype is to be a hopeless romantic. But the other aspect is you need to learn how to have effective boundaries. And people who are hopeless romantics don't want to have the boundaries. Okay, they don't want to have they don't want to have boundaries because then that removes the fantasy. So what you have to do is actually you have to take yourself out of the fantasy and start living in the real world. She doesn't want to believe the world is cruel, but the world is, right? So you almost it's changing the narrative. It's very difficult to do because again, your nature is to be a hopeless romantic. It's to see the world through rose-tinted glasses. But when you stay in that place, they're the most likely people to get hurt because they don't have an aspect or grasp of realism or reality. That life, unfortunately, is cruel and people are mean. And people don't respect you just because you are a human being. Whereas you, from your Pan diagram, you would respect somebody. No matter, you wouldn't judge somebody. You just appreciate them. But unfortunately, many people don't have that particular upbringing. So it's very hard. So so what happens is, when you enter relationships, that boundary that you're supposed to have, you don't have it. You don't have it. So she needs to learn how to actually create boundaries. Otherwise, she'll get taken advantage of because she'll keep on believing someone's truth, which is why she stayed with SK for so long. That's why the SK situation happened, because she was willing to believe it. I wouldn't even. I mean, you can say naive, but I'm going to say another word. After a point, it gets to the point where you intentionally, willfully want to ignore because you don't want to live. You are an ostrich with your head in the ground. Because if you lift your head up and you look up into the world, you're going to have to see it for what it really is. It's Matrix all over again. When you're in the Matrix, everything seems cool. But when you step out into the real world and you see that that Zion is looking a bit mad, you saw what Judas did. Judas went back into the Matrix because it's much easier to live in that lie than it is to live in that truth. And it's so difficult because of that. Like I said, the nature of the person is to be in a fantasy. It's nice to believe in the fantasy. It's nice to believe in somebody who's going to whisk you off the feet. It's nice to think a prince is going to come out and take over. But the reality is you've got to learn to live in the reality of life, right? That create boundaries because people are mean and disrespectful, and I don't care about you just because you're you.
And the way that it was framed, where he played something in the beginning of you at a high point. So kind of a similar interview to what we're doing right now. Life is better. It's better than I could have expected. There's been obstacles, but like where I'm at right now feels good. And that was happening at the time that you were at a low point. And I thought it was really beautiful that you dared to love out loud again. because after going through that, a lot of people are like, I'm not saying nothing until I'm a grandparent.
Pause. Something that she just mentioned there was really important. I know she turned it into a positive, but there's a negative in there. I don't think she noticed, and I'm not even trying to shout. I'm doing the opposite because I think Shannon's doing a great interview, so I'm doing the opposite to add more commentary. What Shannon just pointed out there is really important. It's a negative. Because if in the low time, you bigged it up like, oh my gosh, and even here now, you're bigging it up again, it's actually not, you're not living in reality. That's the point. She bigs things up to make it seem like everything's okay when it's not okay. And it's okay to not be okay. As Jessie J said, it's okay not to be okay. Sometimes it hurts. Because sometimes it really does hurt. And it's hard because then it means she has to address the actual pain. And this is where, and someone's put it in there, avoidance also is important. It can then turn into avoidance, and then it turns into willful ignorance. Because what's happening is you don't want to address the pain you're facing. You don't want to address the reality of truth that this world is cruel, or this person can be cruel. Because you're looking at it from your perspective, which is, and I'm guessing maybe part of her is not so necessarily cruel. And so maybe she views the world through how she sees things, how she sees herself is, I'm not cruel, so I don't expect people to be cruel. Unfortunately, maybe the world is cruel. Okay, so where we're at now is that you start to realize that actually you put on a facade of fantasy. And do you know what? It reminds me so much of Married at First Sight a few seasons back, and I can't remember her name, blonde hair girl with a guy that ended up being gay. I can't remember his name. I can't remember. If you guys watch Married at First Sight, you remember a few seasons back, blonde girl and her guy, they had met before at a speed dating. And when they were on the show, he was not being forthcoming. And then it found out he was kind of gay. And I can't remember their names. She had the same energy, very willful ignorance, and trying to be Kate and Luke. Thank you. I knew my team was coming correct out here. They know the things out here. So with Kate and Luke, same thing. Kate had the same fantasy idea. And you saw how she bigged up moments where you're looking at it like, babe, this is not it. This really ain't it. So it's, again, about creating boundaries, but also being honest with yourself and being honest with the reality you see, and not trying to live in the fantasy. Okay. And it's okay. That facing that pain, you won't die. I promise you, you won't die facing that pain. You're going to become stronger. And that's the fear. The fear is going through the pain. Through the fire. That's the pain. It's the fear of going through the fire. To the window, to the wall. Anyway, let's go.
Because I don't ever want to be wrong out loud again. Actually, let's hear your story.
Okay, yeah, you want to hear it?
I do. I do want to hear this story. I asked you for a story that grounds where you're at today and what we're going to talk about, and I would love to hear it.
So I want to tell you the story of my boyfriend and I's first date, because it was like really crazy. My manager was there.
She was on the date?
It was like a long date. Yeah. She was on everybody was on this date. This poor guy. He had like, people have been asking like, how did y'all meet? How did y'all meet? You know, which I think is like, there's so many ways to meet someone nowadays. Like you could go on Love is Blind if you want to.
Would you recommend?
I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I had a really good experience with what I learned in the pods. And I've really carried that with me. That like vulnerability and raw honesty and like over communicating, because you're not sitting in front of someone, you know, and just trying to be really clear. I've really taken some things away. So yeah, if you need help, like actually learning how to date to find someone, like, yeah, Love is Blind is it. But like, if you already have mental health, I don't know, like, I don't, it's really bad for your mental health. So he DM'd me. And I was like, oh, okay, like he looks kind of cute, whatever. So I answered and we ended up like FaceTiming.
What was his DM?
Before he DM'd me, like maybe like 3 or 4 days before, I had actually posted a story. It was like repost from my best friend's story. Like, I don't want you to like me. I want you to be obsessed with me. It was something.
Okay, now you might be wondering why I paused it there and why I'm reacting the way I am. I already know where it's going. I already know where it's going. I already know where it is going. Okay? Because the moment you tweeted, I want a person to be obsessed with me. First of all, obsessed is it's a very dangerous word. It is not a word that I associate with love very well. I don't like obsession. The word obsession is not a good word I would include with love, if I'm honest with you. Like if I look at the definition of obsession, I don't see that in a great word. And I'm wondering why she wanted obsession. So this let me look at a definition. So an idea or thought that continually preoccupies or intrudes on a person's mind. I don't know. I don't like the word obsession. Persistent, disturbing preoccupation with an often unreasonable idea or feeling. That's the better definition. So a persistent, disturbing preoccupation with an often unreasonable idea or feeling. I don't like that. Okay? I don't like it because that wording tells me two things. If he's responding to her obsession and she wants him to be obsessed, they are both a problem. Okay? When someone is obsessed with you, they can't let you go. They can't give you freedom. They can't give you space. They can't allow you to be because they're obsessed with you. They have an unreasonable amount of wanting you. Right? They have an unreasonable amount of wanting you. Let me give you an example. My first ever love, yeah, shout out to the first ever love, but I was young, I was naive, and the way I saw love, I was so endowed because that was my first. I knew her as a friend as well, and I really liked her, loved her. An awesome girlfriend, to be honest. She was an awesome girlfriend. Shout out to her. She's now married, so that's somebody's wife. Fully, so I'm not trying to get anybody into trouble. But it's like when I think about that first love, and I think about how I loved her. I don't want to say all the way obsession, but it's obsessive in a sense of until you get your heart broken, then you realize. But it's like everything's about them. You know what I mean? Like your whole thought process is about them. And of course, love is that preoccupation. But when you get to a point where you can't do your work, you can't eat, you can't sleep, like if someone even gets near them, you'll get an anxiety. Like this is not love. That ain't it. Okay. And a lot of us have traumatic aspects when it comes to love. And so that's why when we see someone getting close to somebody, we get so traumatized so quickly. We get so angry. We get so we get so jealous. We get so envious about the situation. And it's like, no, you have obsession. Okay. You don't have a healthy level of understanding when it comes to love. Okay. Right. When you're obsessed with something, it is the definition is crazy. The definition is a persistent disturbing. The word disturbing is enough. A persistent disturbing preoccupation with often unreasonable idea or feeling. We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want obsession with your partner because love doesn't contain fear, and love should be freedom. And when I say freedom, doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, but there should be an aspect of freedom. And it shouldn't be an aspect where I tie you down like a bird in a cage. And so that tells me first two things. Number one, why was that her idea? Where does that come from? That comes from, I bet you, probably not feeling loved as a youngster, not feeling loved as a young individual, which links back to what we were saying about how she was talking about, I think I'm talking too much. It's the sensitivity of her youth and probably not getting the enough attention, emotional and physical care that she actually needed from her parental figures. By the way, I'm estimating. I'm not saying it actually is. I don't know her background. That aspect of wanting to feel loved and cared for is now projected outwardly on this story time where I want someone to be obsessed with me. And it's like, no, baby, we don't need you to be obsessed with me. Why are you so obsessed with me? Boy, I need to know now. That wasn't a good thing when Mariah Carey sang that song. It's like everything you do is about me. Relax. Now, of course, we talk about love and saying about servitude. Everything is about thinking about your partner in that respect. But it does not mean that the person can't eat, sleep, and breathe without you. How am I supposed to breathe with no air? We're not here to do Jordan Sparks. You understand what I'm saying to you, right? That's obsession. That they can't be without you at all. No, right? So the fact that she brought that up the fact that she retweeted that tells me that I think there may be some love aspects in there. There may be some love aspects in there where she needed some love and she some care. And she wanted somebody to want her, you know what I mean? And somebody to put her, and I think it's the final point I want to put is she wanted somebody who's going to center their focus around her, not in an arrogant way, not in an egotistical way, but in a way of, I want somebody to consider me. I want somebody to put me at the forefront. I want someone to put me as number one. I want someone to love me the way that I love them, right? Because now we know why her and SK actually worked for so long, because she was willing to put SK first. She wants somebody who's going to put her first and put her at the center point, which is fine. But the word obsession tells me we don't have the right idea yet about how that looks. Yeah? We don't know how that looks. Now, of course, the other person responding to that, that's another story. We're going to talk about it.
Something like that, and that like really resonated with me. And so like reposted it just to be funny. So then a few days later, I get this DM from this random guy and he says, "Hi, Raven." I think he like put period. He's like, "I'm obsessed with you. Thoughts on a date?" And I was like, how did he know? I just used that word. That's so crazy.
Because he's obsessed with you. That's how he knew.
He's obsessed with me.
Now, I know Shambudi couldn't say it, so we're going to say it for Shambudi. Baby, he played you. Won't you come my way? Listen, baby, he played you. Now, Shambudi can't say it because she's trying to keep a good interview, and I respect that. But baby, this is the fantasy I'm talking about. See how it's become a fairy tale? Do you see it? Right? If you're one of these people, pay attention. Do you see how it's a fairy tale? The need to want to have the fairy tale is what's going to get her into trouble. It's not the fact that she's even necessarily naive. It's the fact she wants to believe in the fairy tale. And the want to have the prince and the princess in a horse-drawn carriage aspect of life is what is a problem here. Because you must live in reality. You just put on your story 4 days ago, and he DMs you. And first of all, if he DM'd you, more than likely he follows you, and more than likely he's been following you for a little while. If he's obsessed with you, it's not just today. He's been following you for a little while, so he saw that obsessed with you, messaged and said, "I'm obsessed with you," and because you think that's cute. Now let me tell you this. Now I would never enter a DM of a girl and say, "I'm actually obsessed with you." No, I'm not going to do that. Now, I might say, "Listen, I've known about you for a little while. Still, like I've seen some of your work. I've seen some of the things that you do. Like you're amazing." Am I going to say obsessed with you? No. You know why? Because I understand the word obsessed and what it means. So she's invested in the fairy tale. She wants to have that fairy tale love. And I'm with it. I hear it, baby. I get it. Okay. All right. But he saw it. All right. He saw it and then messaged her and said, "I'm obsessed with you." Okay. Why are you so obsessed with me? Boy, I need to know now. Oh, sorry, I muted
A few
myself.
people and they're like, "That is so weird." Like, and I'm like, it really isn't. Like, that is like, I needed that. Like, I was so ready to be like obsessed with someone too. Like, I'm not just asking for that one-sidedly. So I responded, I was like, I said, "Haha, like I'm intrigued." Whatever. We end up FaceTiming.
Shoot, maybe I should have messaged her and said, "Raven, I'm obsessed with you still. Can't wait to see." You know what I mean? Maybe I should have tweeted that. I should have DM'd her that. I feel like I missed out. I should have DM'd her and said, "Baby, I'm obsessed with you." Okay.
And I think for like the next like 2 weeks. And finally I was like, "Oh, well, I have to go to New York for work." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'll come up there and meet you." And so I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I start thinking about it and I'm like, okay, like at this point, 2 of my best girlfriends that I grew up with, like, since I was, like, 12 years old, they were coming to New York too. So, like, I knew I had to carve out time for them. One of my castmates was coming with me as well. My manager's there. So it's like a big group of us. And I was like, dang, like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, you know? So whatever, we figure out a time.
Now, I'll pause it here. Elle said you made a great point, right? It's a really good point. How can he be obsessed with you if he only ever knew you on IG, online, and TV? How? How? Now, I'm not saying that he can't, like, like you and be like, you know what, I saw what I liked and I want to get to know more. I'm intrigued. But how are you obsessed and I don't know you? It's giving what this is exactly tears won't flow away and I can't remember the lyrics. Stan, Eminem and Dildo. Is it Dildo or Dido? Dido. That's exactly what it is. It's given Stan, right? Because that's obsession. So the obsession of the fan is he doesn't know who you are. He only knows your music. He only knows what you do. He doesn't know who you are. How are you obsessed? Sometimes I like I said, I met Yvonne Origi, right? Beautiful, stunning. God damn it, girl was fine. And I was like, I looked at her and I shook her hand and I calmed myself down. I said, listen, brother, she's a normal woman. Like, relax. Because I was thinking about it for a second. We're in the same room together. And I was like, but I'm looking at, and I said to the guys, should I go over? I don't know. I want to go over and say hello and da-da-da. And I said, it's a normal person. Why the fuck am I getting stressed? Just go and say hello. You know what I mean? I don't know who you are. I know you from TV. That's about it. Now, here's my thing, right? I cannot be getting obsessed with you if I don't know who you actually are. That's infatuation on a deeper level, which is why it's obsession. And so what happens is people that are obsessed, they turn into stalkers, they turn into snapped, they turn into to killers because they have no clue who you were, and yet they fell in love or they were obsessed with you. That's a problem. Because they know not who you are, which means they're so in love with your cadence, your appearance, your look. Tears on, and I ain't it all. Big boy tune. I see it all. Anyway.
And this art is so embarrassing. So I like taught this Pilates class, like I was saying before, and it was so good, but it's like really like an emotional, energetic, like exchange I'm having with people. So like afterwards, I'm a little bit, like toned down.
See what she said there? Now, I never knew Pilates was going to be so emotional. I thought Pilates was Pilates. You know what I mean? Like, it does you good, you stretch and everything. But the fact is, she puts a lot of energy into Pilates. And I'm talking about an emotional level because she's highly sensitive. And that's the problem. People that are highly sensitive need to learn how to effectively put good boundaries around themselves because energetically, they put out a lot of energy. And people are drawn to them because they see the energy and want the energy. So if your Pilates is becoming so deep, and it's funny because it's the same thing that happened to me at work. When I was working as a banker, I spent more time like giving people coaching and counseling. Like, yo, they used to get vexed at me because I would spend like, I meant to be a 15-minute meeting. I would run over. It'll be a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. Someone's now crying in my office because they're breaking down, telling me about their life. You were meant to come in and get a bank account, and now you've got a whole counseling session. Energetically, I put a lot of energy out there. But the reality is I need to also have boundaries because first of all, my time is important. But 2, also, I can't help everybody. And 3, the reality is there are going to be people who don't respect your energy, who are wanting to take it from you. You see what I'm saying to you? So when she's doing Pilates, she's not just doing Pilates, her whole energy and being is in it. Okay? And because of that, you have to be very careful what thing that attracts to you. So you have to develop boundaries. And of course, I had to learn that a little bit later on. But for her, she needs to learn how to put boundaries in place. But I'm telling you, you don't want to at this moment because you've always been that way. And it's hard to change. But you need to. Because there are people out here who do not care for you in that way. You said you wanted obsession. Obsession has come now. And when I heard her speak, I'm like, this ain't gonna go well too. This ain't gonna go down. This ain't gonna go well the way you want it to go down. It's gonna go badly.
Recovering my energy. And I have this date and I'm getting ready and I'm like, I don't know like what to wear, like what it was bad. It was all bad vibes. I ended up wearing like the most raggedy outfit like you could ever think of. I just looked very raggedy. And I get down there and he's like waiting for me outside the door. And I literally could not even make eye contact with him. Like I was so nervous and weird. And he literally was like, is something wrong with you? And I was like, I literally couldn't even make eye contact. I was like talking over here. I was like, I'm fine. Like I was so strange. And so we like get in an Uber, like we're so quiet. And he's like very outgoing. Like he's like energetic, trying to get to know me. And I'm like in my head, like, okay, like I just have to get through this brunch. Like I'm so weird right now. I don't know what it is. And then we sat down, we like went to some brunch.
Let me tell you what that is, sis. Let me tell you that is two things, okay? Number one, you're a very sensitive soul, right? So I'm gonna give the bad and I'll probably give the good. Number one, the bad part of it is, right? The bad part of it is, right, is that because of your sensitivity, you probably are picking up something and you may not realize. Due to your sensitivity, you're probably picking up energy from him, even though he may be going up real nice, and that your gut instinct is also probably speaking to you. Your defenses are probably telling you something. This might not be the one, right? But you've gone shy, you've gone nervous, you've gone anxious, you're not really sure what it is. Your body's trying to tell you something, right? So that's the first part. The second part is you probably thought he was attractive, and it can be very, you remember you are the, even though we see you as this baddie, you may not look in the mirror and see yourself as a baddie. So if you see him as a really good looking guy, the way you compare yourself to him, you may start feeling some type of way. You don't feel comfortable, right? So that can happen too. But yeah, that was that. It's interesting that she had that reaction when she first started. Very nervous, probably as well. Also, number three, it could be that you've been a little bit of a while since you've gone out, gone with another man since SK. It can be very difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy to date somebody new, bring somebody new into your life, to bring somebody else into the fold, and open yourself up again. It can be very difficult too, right? In that aspect. But I think because you're an empathic kind of person, I think energy wise, I think baby, your body may be telling you something and you may need to listen, right? And absolutely right, I said, if you can't look them in the eye, you can't really share energy with them. If you can't look them in the eye, also, you're very nervous, you're anxious, you're thinking that person's too much for you. And if they're too much for you, this can also start an imbalance in a relationship in terms of power, because you think like everything they do is so amazing. And they're literally just, you're literally just existing. And you're just like, you know what? Like, because of how great they are, I'm not that great. And it could be that your insecurity is making you see yourself in the light that you're not good enough for the person too. Hence why you don't look in the person's face, because you think they're so great. A bit like how people struggle to look at celebrities in the eye, or they start struggling to shake their hand, or they're like, oh my God, it's you. Why? Because you consider them to be such a big thing, right? Consider them to be such a big thing. So you've got to be very aware of that as well in that aspect. So yeah, there's a couple of things it could be.
Place, and we started talking, and like still like sitting across from me, like I could not make eye contact. But then like we started talking about really good stuff, and I think we started talking about like family, and I like warmed up a little bit. And then we went to Noma, I think, and walked around, and like that was really good. And so I was like, I have all these people in town and I have to like make time for them. Do you want to join us for dinner? And he's like, oh, okay. So
And he's in New York by himself.
He needs credit for that, right?
No, he don't. Listen, I don't listen. He don't need no credit for that. You don't need no credit for that. It's like me going to another area. Of course, I mean, if you haven't told me, then yeah, If you haven't told me that, you know what, you're gonna be having to make time for other people, then yeah, I can understand what you're saying. But if you've warned me before that, you know what, I may need to split my time, I'm gonna be like, yeah, of course, no problem. I'll be like, do you want me to come along? If you want to come along, that's fine, I don't mind, or I can go and do my own thing. Not a problem at all. I don't want to, impede on your time. You know what I mean? But shoot, yeah, plaudits for coming along. I mean, come on. I went to New York by myself. What you talking about? I'm from UK. That's like me saying a girl invited me to Leeds or whatever, somewhere in my area, and be like, yeah, you came to Leeds and you need plaudits for coming to Leeds. Think of what? Please.
He showed up to a new city by himself, and here I am rolling like 10 people deep. It was like the middle of January. And so like New Year's resolutions, whatever. And so he was like, we should all go around the table and talk about like, like what are your goals for this year? What is something you want to do differently? It was like this whole thing. And everyone like went around and said all of this beautiful stuff. And I felt like he was really trying to get to know me and the people around me in a deeper way. And so at this point, the night is like still young, right? So we're like, let's go out, this group of 10 people. I didn't feel weird about it. Like I was very like present with him and didn't feel like corny about holding hands. Like I actually wanted to. So I kept like noting all of these little things that were so opposite from what I'm used to. And we go out, we end up like hanging out.
Now here's the thing. I think what she's going through right now is really interesting, because I think when we talk about, the swinging of balance, right? When you've gone to one extreme, she's been at one extreme, which is she doesn't like, she's been closed off, guarded, emotionally not open, not available. A lot of us struggle to find a balance. We have to kind of go to the other side. Now, if you're unlucky and you go to the other side and you end up dating someone for a very long time and marrying them, you are unlucky because you've gone to the other side, right? But a lot of us tend to go like, and then we come back into the middle again. We find our balance and find our center. And if you can find your balance and you can find your center, by the grace of God, you'll find the right kind of person probably to be with in a relationship. But if you're on either side, if you meet somebody long term and you're on one balance where you're on this side or you're on the other side, relationships tend to suffer and they begin to dwindle, to unwind. For instance, somebody who's never experienced anything in the world is on the naive side. And then when they get into a marriage, they feel like, oh, I want to explore a little bit. Then they go completely the opposite side. And that's when the relationship then begins to break down. So it's like finding that balance. Very hard to do if you haven't experienced stuff. I think she's on the other spectrum now. Now she's trying to be open. Now she's trying to be available. So now what she said, she's noting these things down. But the reality is when it started, baby, he said he wanted to be obsessed with you. Yeah, I'm saying to you. Yeah?
Till way too late, past my bedtime. And then we go back to the apartment that I'm staying in. We're just like sitting on the couch. And he was like, I think I'm really falling for you. And I was like, I think I'm in love with you.
But wait. They have been talking for how many weeks? 2 weeks, isn't it? Before that? It wasn't I know it's a first date, but they've been talking for 2 weeks. So it's slightly different. They've been talking for 2 weeks and that. But I'm a cautious. I am a little bit cautious when I heard that, But I think they've been speaking for 2 weeks. She said, I think before they went on their first date in New York and stuff. So I think that's probably what it is. But yeah, it's a lot still. Can't lie to you. You get me? That's a lot still. Can't lie to you, but I can understand why they may be in love. You know what I mean? I can understand. Maybe they're easy. They're quick fallers. You know what I mean? They're quick fallers. Depends what kind of conversation you've been having the last 2 weeks. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. So I'm not gonna get too hard on her. If they've been speaking for 2 weeks before that.
Yeah, it was the first day.
Pardon the interruption. Popping in to give you a moment to.
But you're right. First date is a bit wild, a bit soon. More than likely, sounds a bit more like infatuation. You're good looking. I'm good looking. We spent good time together. The time was good. Energy was righteous. That's why I'm kind of falling for you in a sense. You know what I mean? It could be that as well too. So I'm not gonna deny that too as well for you guys.
And then
did he say it back?
Yeah. He was like, "Yeah, I love you. I think I love you." And we were both like, like awkward laugh, like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Like,
Ooh, sorry.
that's so funny.
Wait, what?
You know,
I'm so confused. Hold
To
on.
come, you'll be thankful you did this. I know I am.
so yeah, we said I love you on the first date, and then
Did he say it back?
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I love you. I think I love you, and we were both like, you know, like awkward laugh, like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Like, that's so funny, you know.
The scientific belief around how long it takes to love somebody is 6 weeks. So you
Yeah.
guys were FaceTiming and stuff
Yes, every day for a few weeks.
for like around, just to contextualize it for time.
Probably like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So still a little early.
Still, no,
Yeah.
there's no excuse.
My
ma'am.
parents got engaged in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
So I am familiar with these love stories working out.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't risk it. I think I'm learning for myself that, you know, the grace of God works for people in different ways. But for me personally, due to what I've been through, what I've seen, what I've experienced, I can't do 2 weeks and fall in love. Okay? I personally can't. I personally can't. So because of what I've been through, what I've seen, I take my time and I measure my energy. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, I may be feeling you, and maybe, but I don't let now the energy draw me in. And when I say energy, the emotion draw me into saying I love you. I don't do that. I remember my last girl. That's not what I did. I literally had to choose to do it. I was like, well, I'm going to choose to love her. You know, there's some things I may be a little bit sussy, but I'm going to choose to love her. So it wasn't a feeling. Like, it wasn't like, oh my God, I think I love her. I never had that feeling. Right? I never had that feeling. It was more of a case of, all right, now we're in a place where we're going forward. Are we choosing to love this girl or not? All right, I'm going to choose to love this girl. You know what I mean? I'm gonna choose to love her, and I'm gonna do what I should do as somebody who's in love with somebody. And that's not to say that I withdrew the emotion from it, but it's more of a case of there has to be a choice. Now, of course, we're in the modern day and age. In the past, it wouldn't have been the case. In biblical times, you probably wouldn't even say I love you. You're just committed, and then I love you comes later on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So the I love you word probably now in our modern day and age is so firmly attached to emotion because of the films and the movies we see, like how we expect love to be. You know, people are even having sex and coming at the same time. Listen, real life, that don't usually happen. It don't usually happen. Okay. But what are we saying? We're saying that in the sense of, you know, we're saying in the sense of that the love has to be a choice. It's not a feeling, it's a choice. But when you first do your first ever love, yeah, you know, when you first ever love, you did kind of say it when you felt it. You know what I mean? So I understand. I remember I told the girl that I loved first, the first time I told her I loved her, I said, I love you, you know. But you know what it is? I had been friends with her and I liked her from time. So within a month or so, I just said, I love you. She was like, I'm not, and do you know what I respect about her so much? Like, that's one thing about that girl. I'm telling you, man, I taught me so much. Most of my girlfriends taught me something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I respect all of them, no matter how it turned out. I remember she said, I love that. She's like, but I'm not there yet. This is us like 18, you know, like the maturity of her mind, like to even be aware of that and not just lie about it and be like, yeah, I love you too, babe. Like, she was like, no, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, listen, I'm not there yet. And I was obviously hurt. I was genuinely hurt. I was like, oh. I get it. You know, I get it. But I was hurt. She can see I was hurt. She's like, it doesn't mean I'm not going to get there. It just means that I'm just not there yet where you are. And I was like, oh, okay, no, I get it. I hear you. You know, no beef. I understand. You know, but it's tough to hear. It's tough to hear when someone says, I love you, but you don't hear the same thing back. Right. But so long as you're ready to work with the person, it's not a big deal. But if no one tells you that, you know, no one tells you that, it's hard, you know. So I learned from that moment. I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, the people don't fall in love like that together. It doesn't work like that. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, 2 weeks might be a little bit soon, but hey.
All right. Crazy as fuck story.
Yeah.
Great story. Disney story.
Yeah.
The story of a naive person.
Yeah. Yes. Very.
But that's, I think, a part of what I found so inspiring about you even daring to try again. Because what happens to a lot of people in the face of, and I didn't watch Love is Blind, but from the Nick Viall, which I have to dig further now after listening to that thing, but it seemed like that person similarly appeared amazing, appeared too good to be true. Like, not only did you go through the hoodwink of it all, But it felt like America, who watched that show, was also experiencing that because that person appeared like someone that you would feel comfortable saying I love you on the first date too.
I think in the past I've held on to hope too long and for not enough reason. And I think a lot of us do that, especially like in relationships, you know, like, oh, he's just having a tough time right now. Like, I hope it'll get better. Or I think I finally felt in myself, like, this is actually crazy, not crazy to say, but like I finally felt like, no, like I can have what I want to have. It's not crazy of me to think that. I don't have to manipulate my own standards or convince myself of something. I can find someone who is gonna be all those things. It does exist, and like you do actually deserve it as a person. And I think for a long time I didn't actually think that about myself.
Why? Was that personal or was that external? Like, was that you felt that way about you, or you looked at the world around you and thought, well, nobody gets what they want?
Kind of both. I think I've always struggled a lot with confidence. Always like try to be the funny girl, or like I also think I didn't have a lot of examples of, no one in my family's married. So I didn't really.
Oh, baby, let's talk about that. Now we're getting somewhere. So she has confidence issues, one thing. Okay, so confidence issues, one thing, which often means that somebody hasn't. Oftentimes, when people have confidence issues, it's because they've not been supplied. I was talking to someone. I was talking about this on the UK panel last week, saying about there's no such thing as I have confidence. There's no such thing. I genuinely don't believe from a psychological level that anybody has confidence. It is built through things and people. So when you're not fed, what can happen to you is that you can have a cycle of negative feedback. So when you grow up and your parents don't inspire confidence, you don't encourage you, don't do it, you go out into the world and you present yourself that way, and then they feed into the fact that you already look like you don't have confidence. So people then pile on more non-confidence onto you, right? And more disrespect and more dislike, and then it feeds into that negative loop even more, and you feel like I haven't got the confidence, and it can be very hard to get out of that loop. Because until you change the perception of yourself, which requires you to input something, which is what? Knowledge. But you know what I mean? And I don't want to go too deep. I don't want to go too deep today. But like, you know what I mean? Knowledge. Something has to click and change how you see you. But you need knowledge to do that. But you also need external reinforcement. Friends. Someone said it. Yes. God. Right? God, friends, family, lovers, who are gonna invoke or speak life into you to change the cycle. This is why people who have problems at home, unfortunately, present themselves in a way in the world that they actually end up attracting a mate who too is problematic, because your experience informs your belief, and your belief informs your attitude, and your attitude informs your perception, and that perception is how you show up in the world. You get it, right? So that's a big aspect. Now, she obviously then said she has no examples of marriage in her family. Yo, does she have examples of people staying together too? At least, because even if it's not marriage, if you get to see loving couples who stay together, that's at least a bonus. But if you've never seen marriage, that screams to me is also code word. Okay? That screams to me code word. When you say that I haven't seen, that no one in my family is married, it also means people are not staying together. That's code word for I've seen broken relationships. That's interesting. Because that's gonna change. Because remember, your experience of what you see, experience is what you see and what you hear. And if you're seeing and hearing broken relationships and marriages, what does that inform your belief? This is why her confidence is shot, but also as well why she said, I didn't believe I could have everything. Because you can't believe that, because your experience have told you you can't have it because of what you saw. Now that changes your perception. That changes your attitude. And so your attitude towards relationships, again, you want the fantasy, but you know but you believe, your belief is telling you you can't have it. So I mean, my attitude is almost nonchalant. Like if bad things happen, hey, you know, I'm gonna live in the fantasy, because in reality, the reality of life is it ain't gonna happen. You know, and then your perception too is influenced, because then how do you show up in the world? Well, how you show up in the world is how you also deal in your relationship. Well, I guess I can accept this or accept that about it, because you know what? I guess, I mean, I can't have it all. I can accept a cheating man because I can't have it all. I can accept a man that's abusive because I can't have it all. I can accept, I can accept, I can accept, a man that doesn't love me all the way, because you can't have it all. You know what I mean? Come
Really
on, Raven.
know, you know, like I'm like, well, no one gets what they want. So I'm like, this is just how it
There you go.
is. So, and
There you go.
also like, you're not this, you're not this, you're not this. So maybe you don't deserve to like think that you're gonna get that.
What are the this, and this?
I kind of always told myself, you're not actually that smart. You're probably gonna have to be with someone who you're just gonna have to like support them at home, because like they're gonna have to be the breadwinner. Like you're not actually gonna make it. So you gotta watch out for that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Or I tell myself, like, you know, you're not actually that pretty. So you're gonna have to just find someone who gonna make it. So you gotta watch out for that. Gonna make it. So you gotta watch out for that. Does that make sense?
I'm gonna go back.
Yes.
Yeah. Or I tell myself, like, with someone who you're just gonna have to like support them at home, because like they're gonna have to be the breadwinner. Like you're not actually gonna make it. So you gotta watch out for that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Or I tell myself, like, you know, you're not actually that pretty. So you're gonna have to just find someone who thinks you're pretty enough to be married to. Yeah, negative self-talk, which is actually something that I'm kind of in this stage of my life revisiting confidence again and self-talk. So I think I've kind of brought it here.
This is so interesting, because that critical inner voice is formed because of parents. The beginning is often formed through parents. And your primary caretaker, whoever took care of you, right? That negative self-talk starts with parents. I say it all the time. So I don't know what she saw, what she heard, and what they said to her. Right? I don't know what they saw. I don't know what they heard. I don't know what they said to her. Okay? But clearly something has been said, and what she has seen has been negative, because that negative self-talk is strong. My girl said, I don't even know if I'm that pretty. That tells me that the self-talk has been, the damage has been done. The damage has been done in her youth. Now, of course, being around other peer groups and siblings, being out and about with friends, they can also impact your inner critical voice as well. And they can have an impact as well, just as much, because especially when you spend a lot of time out in the world. But to inspire confidence, first and foremost, the foundation must be there. Otherwise, it becomes a very problematic when there's no foundation and they're blown on hot air, and the world tells them they're amazing and great. When the world tells them they're not great, there's nothing to stand upon. They fall down. So it starts with parents. It starts with primary caregivers. What were they saying to her? What were they impacting her with? What would they, you know, I'm guessing she's a very sensitive kid. So maybe there's an aspect to her where she's like, where because of her sensitivity, words were hurting more. You know, some parents don't realize that their kids are more sensitive than others. Some kids can take it. Some kids can't really take it. You got to be very aware. Like, I know myself, I'm a bit more sensitive. I remember every negative thing that my parents have probably said to me. You know what I mean? And most of them, my dad, the things that are hurtful, I remember. You know what I mean? But the sensitivity makes things stand up a bit more. But who's pouring into? Who's saying that you're amazing? Who's saying you're great? Who's saying, who's saying that, you know what, you're beautiful? Who's saying to you? Because that is why I keep saying about fathers are important, because they they can provide the foundation and an identity. Look, can I be honest with you? I'll be honest with you. Let me be real with you. I said this, right. I wasn't and here's the thing. I don't know if I can. Here's my unpopular opinion. This is my unpopular opinion. Especially when it comes to things like bullying, yeah? Kids are intuitively smart. They are barbaric because they're basic. Right? She did say that, Ariane. Good point. Good bring up. We'll discuss that too, how that can impact somebody. That's a good bring up. I remember her saying something like that, right? Kids are barbaric, right? But the thing is, they're also very simple, right? Let me give you an example. As a parent giver, if you don't teach your child and give them foundation, how to handle being out and about, they struggle because kids tell it as it is, right? Usually, whatever is missing from the caretaker is what the kids end up picking up on and blasting you with. For instance, let me give you an example, right? One thing that I remember is my name, innit? My dad always told me, listen, be proud of your name. Your name is a Ghanaian name, but be proud of that name. When I got into school and the teacher was like, couldn't say the name, I said, hey, miss, this is how you pronounce my name. The other kids that tried to say, oh, Kojo, Mojo, I'm like, hey, whatever you call it, I like my name. Because it had been instilled in me, pride. The name, you can't play with it. Now, I would ask my dad at points, oh, Dad, why don't you give me an English name? Hey, you don't get an English name here. That name is a powerful name. Don't ask those questions. You're not getting a normal name. Because my cousins had English names as well, right? The George and the Williams and the other kind of names like that. They had English names. I was like, why didn't you give me an English name? Why didn't you give me a Ghanaian name? Why didn't you give me a Ghanaian name? Why didn't you give me an English name? I wanted a George. I wanted a William to fit in. I wanted a Kevin. Why didn't you give me an English name? Right? Now, of course, it makes it harder. I'm not saying it's perfect, but what I'm saying is, if you don't install pride in your kids, if you don't install that foundation, see, a foundation of culture and a foundation of courage and bravery, and talking to them, say, hey, look, this is who you are. If you don't birth the identity in them, whatever you leave spare on the ground, the kids pick up and try to come at them. Because when I see some of the kids that were getting bullied, I can see why you're getting bullied. No offense. Anybody got bullied out there? I got bullied. I don't want to say bullied, but I had a slick mouth. My mouth was slick. Can't lie to you. So when the other kids tried it, I had a slick mouth. So I wouldn't necessarily unless I got bullied, but I would bring trouble to myself sometimes, right? But when I look at some of the other kids as to why they got necessarily bullied, I realize it's because the same thing's happening at home, right? For instance, if you don't inspire confidence in your kid, for instance, you don't say, you're amazing, you're great, I love what you do, this is great, this is, and inspire them. And I'm not saying that every kid goes for this. Of course, there's some kids that fall through the cracks who their nature isn't to be confrontational, and I get that, right? So I understand that as well. I do understand that point as well. So I'm not making it across the board. It's my unpopular opinion. And I'm saying that some of the things that I saw some of these kids going through, for instance, I remember being in like 11, 12. Some of the things that were happening to some of the boys and the girls. For instance, some girls were out here. Some of the guys were out here that were getting bullied. They didn't understand the ecosystem, right? I noticed that the nerds themselves, right, the guys that are nerds, rarely got bullied. I'll tell you why. Because they stick to their own. They ain't got time for your bullshit. Yeah? They ain't got time for your bullcrap. They're living their life. And the day that one guy tried it with a nerd, he slammed the book in his face. It was crazy, blood. Because oftentimes the ecosystem for kids is like, it's very black and white. They try to find something, they tease, they're trying to find their place in the world, etc., etc. If you don't teach your kid identity, they're more than likely identity, love for themselves, love for what they do. You don't teach them this, they end up getting taught by the world. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, it's tough, man. I can't lie to you, it's tough. People are coming, and the thing is, people are coming from broken homes, abusive daddies, abusive moms, abusive parents. They've come from sexual trauma. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that people are coming through as to why they become the bullies or the people that are getting bullied. Right? But if you don't learn how, and the thing is, if you don't learn how to conquer your bullies when you're young, they become bullies when you get older. You find yourself being the same thing. You get subjected. I remember I was coaching some people and I was like, their story was the same when they were a kid as they were when they were an adult. They got bullied as a kid, so they got bullied as an adult. I was like, what? And I realized because you didn't learn the lesson. You know what I mean? You end up being in the same place again as an adult if you don't learn it as a kid. So if you don't learn how to love yourself, you don't learn how to stand up for yourself, you don't learn how to assert yourself, all of that is taught as a child. So some of the things that as an African we're taught, you can't talk back. You did it. What you realize is sometimes you're teaching your child also to take and not to be able to give back appropriately in the right way. So if I'm gonna have a kid now, I'm gonna be like, listen, hey, you can talk back, but just know there's consequences when you talk back. There's a way you talk. You understand? There's a way that you respectfully address it. And that's something that Africans we like to do. Like, there's a way you address something. There's a way you talk about something. There's a way that you deal with certain things. But depending on the upbringing of the child. Anyway, we've derailed. Sorry, apologies. We've derailed. But a lot of that stuff happens because as a child, that child has been broken in some kind of way. And so when they get into the system, there are other broken kids who have no shame and no gall. Have no shame and have all gall and are tyrants. Tyrants. It's mad out there, bro. I'm telling you. Yeah. I remember, and in my last story, I remember one situation happened to me, right? And I was on a school bus. I remember this. I was on a school bus. And on a school bus, basically, I've got, when you're young, you get beaten by your parents, innit? So when you get to a certain point, you don't really phase you, innit? And I remember I was on a school bus. And one little youth from maybe I think a year or two below, because how our ecosystem was is a completely black school, and most of the kids are coming from, I would say, very low, working class backgrounds, and the school's not doing well, educational wise, right? And I remember one of the kids, he had an older brother. Older brother was a menace and a tyrant. He was short, but he was a menace and a tyrant, and he rolled with certain gangs and stuff like that, right? So his little brother, I'm on a bus now, and I don't know how it starts. And again, my slip mouth, I can't have anything. Like, I remember he also said something to me like, oh, you're so, because I was a fat kid at the time, you're so fat. Like, he wants to pick on me in it. You're so fat. Your titties are sweating. And it's, look, hey, he's kind of, now I look back at him like, it was kind of funny. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm like, but your head's so big. So what you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I give a slip comment back. Now I know his brother's a hothead. If you say something to a little brother, he gonna tell his older brother, right? So now he sees me, right? And again, because he thinks I'm not about that life, he thinks he's got easy meat. All right, but I'm gonna match you, but I'm not gonna fight you because I can't win the fight. I beat you up, your brother comes and he beats me up. Okay, right? So I can't have this fight. So now he comes over. He's got an umbrella. He's got an umbrella in his hand, and the edge of the umbrella. Yeah, he drops another joke. He must have said. He said, "If we cut you open, you're gonna bleed ketchup and cheese in it." And because we're on a school bus, everyone's laughing and cracking joke and laughing, and I'm like, "Why is he doing this?" Like, and that's what happened. Sorry. Oh, I remember now. Sorry, I apologize. This is what happened. There's a white boy that was in our school. I loved him, man. He was a great guy, man. He was a cool guy, man. Basically, he liked a light-skinned girl, but there was another guy, I think who was a cousin of her. He didn't like her. He didn't like him. And so I think he went to sit next to the girl and talk to the girl. And the girl they were feeling each other, right? So the lights, obviously the light-skinned guy and the little brother, whatever, they're cool, innit? So that guy comes over to talk to the white boy, like, why are you talking to her for? You know you're not supposed to talk to her, blah, 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 blah. So I said to him, let it go, bro. Like, yo, he's just talking to the girl. The girl looks like he's feeling him. Like, it is what it is. He's like, who you talk, bro? Who are you? Who? Why are you getting involved, bro? And that's when he says about the fat comment about your fat and your titties be sweating. I said to him, well, your head's big. You know what I'm saying? What we doing? Right? And in my head, I'm like, you're so dumb. Why did you say that, coach? You know, it's going to start a war for nothing. It's going to start a fight for nothing. So now he turns his attention to me. Yeah? Turns his attention to me. And obviously, then he says another comment like, you know, if we cut you open, you're going to bleed cheese and ketchup. So the whole bus is kind of laughing at this point, right? People kind of see what's going to happen. So now he's in my face. He's standing over me. I'm sitting down. He's sitting over me. I'm looking straight. I'm like, yo, I just told you, listen, let him be, bro. That's what I'm saying. So it is what it is. Before I know it, the brother takes the umbrella and licks me over the top of the head. I looked at him. I said, what was that for? And I can't remember what he said. I can't remember what he said. It probably sounded like you're a dickhead or whatever. You're whatever. I turned my head and I said, all right, cool. Because this is not going to end well for me. So I'm all right, cool. I'm going to show you a different mode of warfare that I'm going to show you now. I'm going to show you another mode of warfare. All right, cool. So he licks me on the head. Then he does it again. He hits me on the top of the head again. I look at him and I go, all right, cool. At this point, my head is hurting. I can't lie to you. Because it's the edge of the umbrella. My head is hurting. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to do a different warfare. You know what I mean? I'm going to do different. I'm going to hold this. Okay, cool. All right. The third time it goes to hit, I stopped the umbrella and I said, listen, bro, relax. I'm trying to go home. That's it. Right? Pause. Let go. So he's now wrestling that umbrella like, yo, give me my umbrella, brother. I'm like, blood, I'm just holding on to it. I don't want to be hit anymore. You know what I mean? Continue. All right, fourth time. Licks. This time he goes to hit me again. I kind of block it like this. I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to have a fight, bro. I'm just trying to do what I want to do, right? I just want to be able to whatever. Let me tell you something. I think he tried a couple more times after, innit? But because I was just like, I'm going to sit like this, I stopped saying something. I just stopped saying it. The bus then stopped at our stop, innit, when we get to the end. And as we get to the end of the bus stop, right? He now obviously is like, yeah, and he's like, that's what you get. I said, all right, cool. You didn't win. Well, you didn't win. What, you wanted me to react? You wanted me to cry? You wanted me to be broken? I said to him, all right, cool. Let me tell you what happened after. So when he gets on the bus, people came past and was like, bro, how did you manage to do that? I'm like, do what? Nigga, you know, I don't think you understand. I'm not trying. Fighting him is not the fight is not a fight. It's his brother that I'm thinking about. If before I know I'm getting set up and putting some and getting shanked for no reason. This doesn't make sense. But everyone was like, yo, bro, I respect that, you know. Fam, you didn't break down nothing. You just kept it G. I'm looking at people like, what? Did you not see me getting abused? Are you telling me? And it was so funny. So at the end, some girls came to me and was like, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm good. I said, it is what it is, isn't it? You get me? I'm gonna stand up for. If I feel something's wrong, I'm gonna stand up for it. Do you get what I'm saying? You're brave, you know. I respect it. I'm like, yeah, what it is, isn't it? Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I wasn't trying to be brave. Okay, all right. I really was trying to sit on the bus and just have my time sit on the bus. I don't want to be hit with an umbrella. Okay, and my head was hurting. Okay. Now, when everybody had left, the bus turned the corner. So basically, the bus stops at a place in Junction, but then it turns the corner when it goes to go to the bus depot, and that's the last official stop. I was the only person on the bus. That's when I felt the pain, and that's when I started to cry. I said, nah, that's too much. Nobody knows, right? Nobody knows. But when I come into school the next day, everyone's like, I respect it. Because up until that point, I don't stand up for myself. You got what I'm saying to you? Up until that point, I don't stand up for myself. So kids are incessantly cruel, but they are testing boundaries all the time. And sometimes you got to take a little bit of a sacrifice, right? Now, of course, I could have got into a fight with him, but I was looking long-term. This doesn't make sense. As a strategy, if I fight him, his brother gets involved. Okay, his brother gets involved. Something happens to me. What happens then? Then my parents might have to get involved. And then it's just nuts. All I could see in my head was, this doesn't end well trying to fight him. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So kids are very incessantly, they like that. Anyway, we've detoured from the story that we're meant to be on. So, you know, this is what we do on this channel. We kind of detour. But yeah, she said about the fact that her parents, her family, I think I remember her saying about this, about the family might be in racist white. Hence why SK wasn't meeting them straight away. I remember saying that. They didn't come on the show, did they? Her parents didn't come to the wedding. You know what I mean? The parents didn't turn up to the wedding, right? So, you know, that's also a part of the trauma too. So that maybe where she has a more critical voice of herself, because if you really deep it, you know, if you don't have a family that, you know, kind of, I'm guessing she's obviously mixed race. If you don't have a family that kind of advocates for you, you go and suffer, especially if they're racist. Especially if they're racist.
And I think there's still deeper to go.
I want to talk about that with you because when we were discussing this new relationship that you have, and I was saying, similar to many people, I relate so much to the betrayal that you went through. And I lived with that person similar to you, and I'd be finding out things real time. And it was awful. And when it ended, I was so well aware that I wasn't emotionally prepared for a romantic relationship. I knew that about myself. I had so much work to do, so much healing. I remember vividly feeling like if I went in a job interview, you know, in the job interviews, they're asked like, what are your strongest traits? And then they ask like, what are some of your weak points? I'm like, I could write you an essay about my weak points. I could get you a scroll out and cover that front to back. But my strengths, I wasn't aware of because that relationship just preyed so much on my insecurities and brought out so many insecurities. I was just very clear that I was unlovable and I knew what was not lovable about me, kind of the same verbatim way you could just describe it just now. And so I knew that that wasn't conducive to a healthy romantic relationship. But coincidentally, a month after I ended that relationship, the toxic relationship for the final time, because similar, it takes 7 times to leave an abusive partner that's physically abusive, that stat goes to, but I think it goes to other facets as well. The final time that I left, a month later, I met my husband. The context of what we met, we didn't have your story at all. Like we didn't say I love you. It took a long 7 months later, but we did have sex really early on because I was looking for a sexual relationship. And like the story that you're
Wait, so the reason why Shambudi didn't say I love you at the beginning is because they had an open relationship. So, you know what I mean? Like, there definitely wasn't a beginning the same way that our good sis did. Now, what's intriguing is that she said about how the negative talk and be able to point all the weaknesses, which is really interesting that you can note down all the weaknesses but not the strengths. And I think that, again, just highlights once more, again, how parents are so important. And I say this because without parents encouraging you on the things that you do well, you will always dwell on the negatives because you're always being brought up on the negatives. And this is something coming from an African household, I can tell you for sure, from what I've seen, you know, from what I've seen, that parents have a big job of pointing out some of your, you know, encouraging points. Like some of the things, even later on as in my teenage years, I remember one thing my dad always said to me, 1 or 2 things that he said to me that I've held tight. And that's why I said to you that that's when I realized, oh, wait, I needed more of this when I was younger because I could have excelled. Because if you deep it, right? I remember he said to me, you know, he said 2 things. You make a great father. And he says, you always listen well. And I'm like, listening, I'm like, how does he know I listen well? Because I ain't gonna lie to you, some of the things I'll be doing, you know, I'll be doing the opposite of what you said to me. So how does he know that, right? So the voice of a parent is so important. The weight and the gravity of it is important. Now, those 2 things, I listen well, and I can be a great father, I've kept in my chest, in the treasure of the chest. So understand that the weight of a parent and the words that they say is so key. So they can literally change your destiny, or at least change the trajectory of your destiny, simply because they've spoken into your life. This is why the blessings of Jacob, when he says to his sons, these are the blessings, that in the lineage of those sons, in the lineage, we see it play out later on in the Bible. Right? We see it later on play out in the Bible, their lineage and what he blesses them with. So it's important, the weight of the words that are being said by parents, to highlight not only weaknesses, but the strengths of your children. If they're smart, tell them they're smart. If they're intelligent, tell them intelligent. If they're funny, tell them they are funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, encourage them in those strengths. Say, hey, look, you know what? You got an attention to detail. Something that my friend told me a few months back. I didn't even deep it. like, she was like, do you notice that you like are very good at knowing details of like where you are? Like if you go somewhere once, you're able to recognize a place and you'll be like, I know that place. Like, and she's like, I don't personally do that. Like it doesn't sit like that for me. But for you, like you go somewhere and you automatically remember exactly where you were and you know how to get there straight away. And I was like, oh, you know what's so mad? I never deeped it, but now you said it, you're absolutely right. Like I literally can go somewhere once, I'll see it on TV or whatever, and I'll be like, I know where that is. I can literally see a building and I'll be like, I know where that is. I don't have to see the whole area. I just need, you know what I mean? If I've been there, like I remember I was watching Young African season 2. I have been to Joburg and I've been to a particular hotel and that was there. And they went into the same hotel. I could tell straight away just by the carpet and the doors. I said, that's the hotel. Because it's got a very distinct look. But you know what I mean? Like, so you and I was like, oh, but she pointed it out. And so now I'm like, I pay attention more to the strengths. If you don't tell your children about their strengths, if you don't keep encouraging them, it's not a tough love to not say their strengths. It's not tough love. It's just abusive because it damages that child from early. It's not tough love to not tell that child about their strengths. So that's probably what Shambudi's even alluding to, but maybe not even realizing.
You're telling about, I said, I love you the first time. Like my comparison is I cried the first time we had sex, which is a no-no.
That just happened
for
to
a fuck
me,
buddy.
bro. That literally just happened to me.
bro.
The other day I was thinking about it. I was like, I need to text my friends and ask them, what does that mean? I've never done that. Okay, but go on.
No, tell me about that. Tell me.
He's gonna kill me.
You know
it was
that,
so
Sean.
crazy. A full-on cry. I feel like I'm kind of playing. I have the vision and I see it and I know exactly where I want to go. And I know that this is the person that I'm going to do that with. But it's like, I'm like trying to start the bike, you know, like when you still have your foot and you're like trying to put it on the pedal and it's just like the bike's going like this, but it's still moving. And so just kind of like frustrated with myself because when I do have those instances of not feeling confident and lacking maturity, it hurts him. So I was just like emotional about that. And then I don't know what possessed us to like have sex shortly after that.
What's that you had sex shortly after, like an argument or?
Yeah, I think it was kind of an argument. I can't even remember what it was over, but basically about how I need to grow in my maturity and in my confidence. And it's something like we talk about and how we're both growing and where we need to pour more energy into different parts of ourselves and us together. Yeah, then I started crying. I feel like for the first time, I'm really connecting with someone a lot deeper than I ever have before. And I think that has developed physically too. It's something like I'm really enjoying. I feel like I'm kind of, again, like a little bit naive. I definitely was like a little bit sexually naive. I don't even know why, like just literally for no reason. But with my partner, I feel like a lot more closeness, just very close. And in that moment, I really felt that. And it just hit me like this man shows up for me constantly.
Yo. You know what's interesting, yeah? You know what's really interesting about that? Thank you, Yoyata. I'll address that comment in a second too as well. Good comment. I like that. We'll address it in a second. I think what's really interesting about this is, and this is why I talk about the balance. And that is very hard because, and this is what I said about having what called third party verification. Okay. Third party verification means get somebody outside who can see into your relationship, because sometimes you don't realize your trauma is impacting the way you see the relationship. Now, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Someone who's been through a lot of bad experiences or bad relationships or has come from a very bad home, the slightest difference of somebody coming in and showing even a little bit of love, okay, even showing a little bit of love, okay, is going to show, it's going to make it feel like it's amazing. That's what actually happened to me in one of my relationships. Because I realized that in a lot of my relationships, people don't ask me questions about me, you know? And it's because I always put myself in a counseling position. It's not their fault only, it's my fault too. I always put myself in a counseling position. And the trouble with that is you don't give the other party space to ask questions, right? And what I realized is that one of my exes, they were asking me questions. They wanted to know, how are you? What's going on with you? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Like, how do you think about this? And because we share the same love language, which is quality time and conversations, I realized, oh, they were generally asking about me. Also, another thing is, which is, you know, I don't deal with people who don't ask questions anyway, in general, right? Some people don't ask questions. I personally don't deal with them because if I'm going to be talking all the time, that's not my thing, right? I want a good mutual exclusive where we both can talk to each other, right? So what was interesting is that, you know, she would always ask questions like, yo, what's going with you? Like, how are you feeling? What's going on with this? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Like, what did it? And I realized I really loved that. And I got really drawn to her. Now, that's still partly trauma because I had never really had that. So it's like, now it may work out for some people because they may generally find a person who generally is caring enough that when they fill in the gap and the blanks of your trauma, that person's a good person. But it can also be the other way, which a lot of people experience more, which is that person ends up either you mess it up or they mess it up. Do you know what I mean? Either you mess it up or they mess it up because it's a trauma response. The person's speaking to your trauma. Oh, I never had anybody listen to me. So the person can be abusive, but still listen to you. Like, oh, that's why they're so great. They listen to me. And yet you can see every other else of the aspect of the relationship is shambolic. But because they do that thing where your trauma is wanting to be fed, it glosses over the whole relationship. And that's what happens to a lot of people, right? So you don't get attention from your parents and you grew up in a place where no one gave you attention. Yet this person you like, who you fancy, sees you. But they're a bastard. You feel me? You know what I'm saying?
No matter what. And I hurt his feelings all the time. And now I'm going to get emotional. And like still in this like really intimate moment, he's like so present and wants to be close to me. And I keep hurting him a little bit. And it just like made me so upset because I'm really trying to work on all those things. And he's being so patient with me. So it was like full blown cry. It was not like this. And he was like, oh my God, what's wrong? And then yeah, the sex was over after that.
So this wasn't after sex was done.
No, it
this
was during.
Oh,
this was in the moment. Yeah, that's why I was like, does this happen to other people?
Well, I was gonna say because post sex crying is very normal.
Okay,
because it's part of your refractory period. Like you go through the spike of emotions, and then you go through the come down period, and you can smoke a cigarette.
And she mentioned about the fact that she feels like she's hurting him. That's interesting. I'm not. You know, I'm gonna take a word for it. I wonder why she feels like she's hurting him. I need to know what she's doing that she's hurting him. That's what I want to know. I want to know what she's doing to hurt him. You know, so we can get a grasp on it. Because he may be extra sensitive, and especially when he's obsessed with you. I don't know. I'm now reading it through that lens. But she generally might be hurting him because she's not very aware and not very. But I'm thinking to myself, if you're that sensitive, you should be a little bit aware. You know what I mean? So I can't really speculate on that yet until a little bit more information comes out.
You can have a good cry. You can eat a sandwich. These are all ways of your body just coming down from this emotional high and releasing the final release. But during is interesting. And was it a good cry though?
Yeah.
Did it start out with like 1-2 tears, and then he's like, "Are you crying?" And you're like,
yeah. I think because we like were so close and in the moment, like he couldn't really tell that I was crying at first, and then it started getting heavier. He's like, "Wait, like, are you okay?" Like, and then it was over, like full blown. I can't breathe. Cry.
Did you say it like, "I've never felt so close"?
Yeah.
Did you say it like, "I still am afraid of getting close"?
Yeah, I said like, I feel just such intense closeness to you. I just feel a little maybe selfish about it because I know he doesn't not that he doesn't have to be in that place with me right now, but I have done things to hurt him, and he's still willing to like go to that place with me. And I just kind of felt like maybe again I kind of went back to like, do you deserve this? Like, so yeah, I think I was crying because like I've been hurting him, and I do not want to do that. And here he is like still being so selfless with me and vulnerable. How can you keep being vulnerable with someone who,
How are you
How
hurting
have
him?
you been hurting him?
Yes,
for
thank you.
instance, with Love is Blind, I'll use that as an example. Anyone on reality TV, like, let's be real, wants to ride that wave, right? Everything that they do is probably going to be about that, to keep holding on to that. We really like want to set a foundation for our relationship, and a big part of that is honoring each other. He set that boundary with me pretty early on. Like, I don't want to be constantly riding the Love is Blind wave. I want to have a new relationship. I don't want you to, have to feel like you got to use your past, use your relationship to stay relevant, stuff like that, which is, if I was in his shoes, I'd feel the same way. Why do you live your life for something that happened before, and now you're trying to move forward with something new?
Which I'm sure is a bit of a breath of fresh air, because there are a lot of people who are like, oh, that wave is going.
Yeah,
Let me get my little surfboard on.
That's very true. Yeah, I did not even think of that. Yeah. And like I know he's right, like 100% in my heart. Like I feel that, and I know my purpose is like I said, to try to bring health and wellness to other women, and especially like other communities who don't have access to what I can offer. And so like none of that says Love is Blind, right? So I know that I don't have to be doing things to constantly relate myself to it. So there's been little hiccups there. I think I did maybe a post, a stupid TikTok, stuff like that. And he's like, that's not actually honoring our relationship. And you're testing the boundaries that I told you what my boundary was. And now you're asking me to keep reevaluating. You're asking me to change my mind. And I think that's part of my maturity. I'm just like going to be vulnerable for all reality TV people. Like, I think that it's easy to get wrapped up in that and want to be that person, and you think that maybe that's the only way that you can like be successful. So,
What does that person look like?
Whoever you were on camera, because it was like a dating show. It's like I had a character, but whoever kind of you're portrayed as after editing and stuff.
And what was your archetype?
I was blessed to definitely have a character arc, but we started at the bottom. And at first I was definitely came across as very closed off, had a lot of walls up, a lot about kind of like the importance of stability. And like, I don't think I said the words out loud, but like, I'm going to date someone who can support me.
Financially focused.
Yeah.
Gold digger.
Yeah, totally. That was the word that everyone was using about me. There's truth to everything. That's not the whole story, but yeah, of course it was a little true. And that's definitely how it looked. Luckily, by the end, like people got to see a softer side of me and got to see, a little bit more of my personality, that am like funny and loose, and I'm not super uptight and like have all these walls up. Of course, why would my partner now want me to keep being that person who had all those walls up and was a gold digger?
So you had made like a funny TikTok that was
swiping on like someone you'd want to swipe on. And it was like these different guys, right? This is actually a great example of how I'm struggling in immaturity.
Popping in for
Is it? Oh, my camera went. My camera went. Hold on, guys. I'll bring my camera back on. I don't. Is it me? I don't know. It don't feel. I don't know. It's weird. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna put my camera back on. Just 2 seconds. It just feels a bit weird. I don't know. It's not making sense for me. I don't know if anyone else is feeling that way, but it's not really making sense. Something just seems a bit off. Is it just me? Something seems a bit off. Like, I get the fact that he doesn't want. I'll put it on my temporary camera. You probably won't see me as well, guys, but it will come back on in a second or two. But I get the fact that, sorry, guys, you have to my temporary camera for a second or two. I get the fact that obviously, old boy don't want to ride a wave, but then it ends with this whole TikTok, and I'm like, her swiping. I don't know. It's not. I don't know. I don't know. It just feels weird. It feels like something's been left out, Gigi. That's what I'm saying. I don't get it. I'm confused. As in, if a TikTok on her swiping, first of all, what's that got to do with Love Is Blind? What does that got to do with Love Is Blind? Number one. Okay. And okay, she made a TikTok about swiping on, and maybe I'm just in my brain. I don't see the difference. I don't really see the biggie. Like if they're celebrities, I don't give a hoots. They're celebrities. You know what I mean? Like if you swipe left on Kobe, if you do a swipe left, I would definitely date Kobe Bryant. Oh, sorry, not Kobe Bryant. He's passed away. Rest in peace. If you say on Dwayne Johnson, but you're gonna swipe right for, I don't know. It won't be a big deal for me. Maybe it won't be. Maybe this is me. I don't know. It wouldn't really be a big deal for me. It's TikTok. It just sounds a little bit like what is that? Now, if those people are her castmates, now that might be slightly different. You know, that might, because that's a proximity thing. If you're gonna do one on your class, on your castmates, maybe that might be slightly different. But I'm trying to think like. I don't know. It's something's not adding up, and I don't know what it is. I just can't put my finger on it just yet. But something's not adding up, and you know, she spoke about how she hurt him, and it still wasn't very clear how she's hurting him. It's almost as if like she's breaking certain boundaries, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Bit weird. I'm trying to figure out. Hold on, 2 seconds. Let me just get my camera on, guys. I'm gonna get my camera back on. This is it's a bit weird. I don't know. It's just a bit. And this is right in my crotch. I do apologize, guys. I just clocked this right in my crotch. I apologize, guys. I apologize. My guys, I'm so sorry, guys. It's right in my crotch area. I do apologize. Oh man, that's disrespectful to my partner that I don't have. Sorry guys, I apologize. Right in my crotch area. I didn't realize that, guys. I was just trying to set up my camera and I didn't realize. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I apologize. You're in for a treat. All right, cool. Let me put back on my normal camera. Because we're back now. You know what I mean? This is what happens when you mess around. You don't put your, you know. But yeah, sorry. I apologize, guys. But so yeah, so I don't know. I didn't hear it. Like something was off. Let me just go back a little bit just to try and understand what she meant.
Asking me to change my mind, and I think that's a part of my maturity. I'm just like gonna be vulnerable for all reality TV people. Like I think that it's easy to get wrapped up in that and want to be that person, you know, and you think that maybe that's the only way that you can like be successful. Is that, you know?
What does that person look like?
Whoever you were on camera, because it was like a dating show. It's like I had a character, but whoever kind of you're portrayed as after editing and stuff.
And what was your archetype?
I was blessed to definitely have a character arc, but we started at the bottom. And at first I definitely came across as very closed off, had a lot of walls up, talked a lot about kind of like the importance of stability, and like I don't think I said the words out loud, but like, you know, I'm gonna date someone who can support me.
Financially focused.
Yeah.
Gold digger.
Yeah, totally. That was the word that everyone was using about me. There's truth to everything. That's not the whole story, but yeah, of course it was a little true, and that's definitely how it looked. Luckily, by the end, like people got to see a softer side of me and got to see, you know, a little bit more of my personality, that am like funny and loose, and I'm not super uptight and like have all these walls up. Of course, why would my partner now want me to keep being that person who had all those walls up and was a gold digger?
So you had made like a funny TikTok that was.
So what does the TikTok have to do? Again, what does the TikTok have to do with her having walls up and her being this gold digger? When you swiping right and left is about how someone looks. Unless you said about how I'm swiping left because he hasn't got money, then I don't understand. And most of the swipes are not about money, so it's about looks. So I think that's why I'm confused. Something is not making sense. Something is not making sense, and when it's not making sense, it usually means there's something that's not quite right in the milk, and something's not being told to us.
Swiping on like someone you'd want to swipe on, and it was like these different guys, right? This is actually a great example of how I'm struggling in immaturity.
Oh wait, the TikTok's here. Hold on, she plays TikTok. Here we go.
And now back to Raven.
Typically I would say yes, but he's been around town, like it's giving used goods. Not only would I swipe right, I would literally go to war for this man. After seeing his apartment, I'm definitely swiping left. I'm sorry. I would absolutely swipe right. Period. Have you seen Moana? I'm rocking with it. It's giving peaked in high school. I like him like I like my coffee.
So I didn't even think twice when I was doing it. I was like, oh, and like making jokes. You're like, oh yeah, whatever, blah blah blah. The TikTok comes out.
Is that
and
the
I
TikTok?
finally,
I don't. Is that the TikTok that we're talking about? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not really being deep enough. Maybe I'm not seeing it deep enough. Maybe I'm not really getting it. I mean, that's a fair point, Sean. That's a fair point. You know, I'm not gonna be mad at that. Maybe it's a boundary for him and gave the impression like she was single in his mind. Also think they're keeping a relationship secret, like he may be another reality star too. Okay, I mean, I hear that. That's fair. You know what I mean? I guess I just think to myself that maybe again, if my girl did it, I'll be like, they're celebrities. Me and my girl and all my exes, we've spoken about this. We've done. I don't know. Maybe again, it may be. Does it come across as gold diggerish? Really? I don't know if it comes across. I don't think I saw any gold diggerish there. You know what I mean? I didn't think I saw any gold diggerish there. You know? I don't know. I'm just not seeing. I guess maybe I'm not seeing it. So I probably need to spend a bit more time. Maybe go back through it again. I get he has boundaries in terms of how he can look like he's single and stuff like that. I can see that. That one I can be open to and say, you know what? Maybe that is, if that's his particular aspect, I can see that. You know what I mean? But it's the fact that she said that he's going back to her previous kind of position, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just giving. It's like I get like if my girl did a TikTok and did a TikTok about swiping left on this person, I guess obviously maybe she has a bigger presence on TikToks. Maybe that's why, or on YouTube, on Instagram. Maybe that's why it's a bit different. You know. I guess the Love Is Blind, and that's what I said about the thing. The Love Is Blind part was a problem. Like she should have never brought them into the swiping part, right? The Love Is Blind people shouldn't have been swiped at all. But she swiped left anyway. She wasn't going to swipe with him. But yeah, I think that aspect is a little bit touchy. So I guess obviously that I can see how maybe that could be an issue in that respect. I'm not full whole gone away, like saying I'm on her side or on his side. It's more of a case I'm just asking questions. I'm like, I'm not really sure, you know. You know what I mean? And it may be, again, maybe because she's more closer, maybe he sees her proximity as being more closer to a celebrity. Maybe that's why. Because of course, the closer you are, the more, you know, it could be looked at a different way. You know, so I don't know. But maybe again, I hear that.
watch it. I was like, this is actually bad. And so I sent it to him and I was like, hey, just want to let you know that they posted this TikTok. It was for like something else. And, you know, it was just a joke. I was just kind of like playing it up and it really hurt him in the moment. Like I didn't even see. I'm like, oh, like this just joking, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, how would you want him to do that? Like rate all of these people and say if you would swipe on them, like, as a person who's trying to.
Also, what was it for? Because it sounds like it wasn't a personal TikTok. She said they reposted it. I'm guessing it wasn't a personal TikTok. It was for something else. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just paying attention to what I'm hearing. It sounded like she's posting it. It wasn't her personal post necessarily, but she said they posted it. So was it for something else that she was doing it for? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if that's. I'm just trying to be open and fair. And I'm saying I'm not going to say the man is wrong necessarily. I want to be able to understand. Let me just go back slightly and just listen.
Joking, blah blah blah. And then I'm like, how would you want him to do that? Like rate all of these people and say if you would swipe on them, like as a person who's trying to build the relationship that I know I want to be in forever, that was not a very good way to go about it.
It's interesting because I, again, would add to the bucket of words that people often say about other people, but don't say about themselves. You know, naive, jealous, and immature. Few people are like, I'm immature. So it's interesting that you keep using those words. But I do think that there is something to that that's unique to the reality TV experience. Because again, my reference with Harry, where him and his partner got into a big argument because he was on a podcast and they said, if you could go on another reality show, which one would you go on? And he said, The Bachelor. And they said, aren't you in a relationship? He said, oh, when that's over. He was joking.
Yeah.
Because that's also kind of a part of
Yeah.
his persona on the show. And it obviously was not funny in the context. So
Yeah, that's not the same. That's not the same at all. That ain't even the same. If you and if he had said I'd go, if I wasn't in a relationship, I would go on a Bachelor, that would be different. You know what I mean? If you said, oh, if I wasn't in a relationship, I would choose someone like The Bachelor. That's different. This guy actually made a joke that I'm gonna go on a Bachelor when I'm not single. That is not you don't make that kind of joke. That's completely different. Like I think we can make a clear distinction between the two, right? But so I was to look deeper at the TikTok can be considered. If I was to take her words, if I was to take her video as words, I can see that could be construed as you're single and you're going to say you can swipe. So if there's no explanation behind that and saying it's simply a video of you just swiping left or right, then it could be considered as looking at you are single, trying to say would you swipe on these people. So I can kind of understand that perspective. But the two are not the same. Harry saying, listen, I would go on The Bachelor, and you know when I'm no longer in a relationship, is nuts. Yeah, you don't say that kind of stuff, right? Well, at least not in public anyway. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because the world wants you to be, and they keep booking you to be that version of yourself, and then you want to meet expectations, and maybe if you have a bit of people pleasing in you, like
or a bit of maybe lacking confidence, like, oh well, no one will like me unless I keep making stuff like this, or I keep showing this side of myself. So I think a little bit with that people pleasing, it's a little bit of that too.
Something that you said in the Nick Viall podcast really stood out to me, and I want to ask about it in light of where you're at today. And that was a lesson that you learned from that past relationship was to trust your gut more. Now, from personal experience, when I came out of a very unhealthy, toxic, manipulative relationship and moved into a healthy one, my gut was very suspicious. My gut was very jaded. My gut was very fearful. And so some of the behaviors that I would be doing, the protective behaviors that felt like the right thing to do or the healthier thing to do, no longer suited the relationship, the dynamic that I was in. So I wonder if you relate to that at all, where you see things that you needed to do to keep safe in the past relationship show up and guard you from more intimacy and love in this relationship.
We are in my new relationship. He has really very raw honesty, almost like, I don't know why this word comes to mind, but like preventative. And I've never experienced that. He like wants to tell me, like, anyone messages him, he wants to make sure, he's like, I want to prevent all of that. And which should like be so fulfilling for me, right? Because like literally all my business was on the internet like a few months ago. But the immature, lacking confidence, insecure part of me is like, I don't want to know. A little bit like avoidance of that. Like, just don't tell me. Like, so I think I have a little bit of growing to do with that. I of course, like I do have some trust issues, but it's more like I almost try to avoid it instead of like, you need to tell me everything. Let me go through your phone. So I wonder why I'm that way instead of the other. But it makes me uncomfortable. And I love how honest and like how he wants to be so preventative.
Does preventative look like I met somebody really attractive today at work? Or does it look like this person slid in my DMs?
Yeah, it looks like this person slid into my DMs, or, you know,
that's good.
An ex reached out to me.
That's good.
Sorry to his leasing office, but like there's a girl in his leasing office, like, who has weird vibes, and, you know, like he'll be like, I want to be honest, she's giving me those vibes.
And how interesting, because in that interview, you talked about how you had to beg your partner for information.
Yeah.
And even despite the begging and the pleading and just the assurance that you would still support them if they were honest, they were not.
Yeah.
And then now you have somebody who's just like pleading to give you information.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, baby steps. Like, I just want to sip, not the whole drink. Like,
I get that.
but
It's
he's
tough.
like so ready to be there with me. And I like that. And it is pushing me, to do the same. I think a little bit, any girl, it touches on my insecurities. I think that's a part of it for me too. I'm like, oh, these girls, like, I can't hold a candle to them. And they're like more aggressive than me. They're more these things that I can't be. I don't even know how to say this. This is so weird. It's like not even a big, I've like never dated someone this attractive before, I feel. And so like it's weird for me. I'm like, he actually is really attractive.
Not her saying that SK is ugly. But no, and that's it. We've clocked it now, guys. We've got to 49 minutes. We now know why, in the very beginning, why she couldn't look him in the face. 49 minutes in, we now know why she could not look that guy in the face when she first met him. Right? That's the reality. Okay, which is what's playing on her insecurities, because she hasn't found her own confidence yet. She's not fully found that confidence. She hasn't fully found that foundational rock that she needs to stand tall for herself. Okay, so with this guy who's super attractive, it's making her not be able to even just look him in the face. Right? So what's happened is the comparison between yourself and him, you've done a comparison. And because, again, how you esteem yourself and how you value yourself, you're now struggling to look him in the eye. I wonder what else you're struggling to confront him on. Okay? You're probably going to struggle to want to confront him on things because you don't want to lose this good thing that you've got too. You might be able to play in that space too. Right? So now, and remember, she glosses things up. So how am that's why the story doesn't make sense about this whole Love is Blind situation. It's like, I think there's more to it than you're actually saying. I think there's more to it than you're actually really saying. I think there's more to what the TikTok and all that kind of stuff. I think there's more to it. I think it's more to it. And so, like I said, she said, obviously, there's things that are different to what she's ever experienced in a relationship. That's key. That's key. Oh, took myself off it. But yeah, that's interesting now.
So I'm like, yeah. It opens a lot more things up. So I definitely feel that.
It's interesting because it's like two different versions of yourself that we're talking to. Like the version of you who's like, I love you on the first date, and the version of you who's saying,
struggling to be vulnerable.
I know what I want in the long term, and I know I want it to be with that person, which that takes a lot of labias, very big labias to say that. I think especially in the face of the fact that you did fall in love publicly before and you were wrong so publicly. So to have faith in somebody and to give them that public faith again is huge. So you're making these really big, grand gestures to show like, I'm open and I want to be there and go there. But then there's this guarded part that's like, okay, one step at a time. I don't want the whole drink.
Yeah. I know. It really is a lot more layered than I thought it was, now that I say it out loud. But a large part of me has always been really guarded and a little bit like standoffish and just shy and naive.
How do you meet in the middle with that? Because I'm sure you wished you were more guarded in the past. I'm sure many people were like, you should have been more guarded in the past. And now you're in this relationship where maybe you should be a bit more slow and guarded.
Yeah.
But you're allowing yourself to still be that naive person who is just going to go into it with blind faith. Is there a middle, or is it exist on two extremes and then land in the middle through that?
I think there's a middle that I'm trying to find. I don't want to be on the extremes of either of them, because I think I did kind of exist on the extremes of some part of it, and it didn't serve me. Being super guarded, then people thought, I was stuck up and had a lot of walls up and unrelatable and like not loving. And then on the other side, I'm just like, I say I love you on the first date. You
Soul
know,
cry the first time you have sex.
like-
Now, the reason why so she's, I mean, me and her are quite similar in that respect, right? I could say I'm very, and what that is not coming into alignment with your sensitive emotional state. So, for instance, you are guarded because you are afraid of being hurt so easily. You get what I'm saying? But you are a person who really wants to be able to love somebody, right? So it's the duality of the juxtaposition that happens. Here's a key thing: she needs to heal, because if she doesn't heal, you don't find the balance, right? Then there's two aspects of you, and what happens is the person that wants to love gets you in trouble, because what happens is it gets you in, but what gets you out is your defensiveness. You get it? So she needs to heal on that aspect, and actually probably spend some time maybe alone, because then she'll be able to really define what really discern what's good for her, because part of her wants somebody to be obsessed with her. She wants someone to love her outrightly like she does, right? And that's what draws her into these situations. But what pulls her out is the fact that she has walls higher than a mother figure. And the reason why is because as much as she can get in and feels that love, it's a feeling. That's the problem. It's the feeling that she's looking for, and the feeling doesn't last, and it's not meant to last. It's meant to be an educated decision. Now, look, like I said, a lot of people, by the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, love someone the first time and they find the love of their life. There are some people out here who get a fairy tale beginning and fairy tale ending. But majority of people actually go through one or two relationships at least before they find a person they need to be with. Why? Because the emotion tends to what leads them down that route and path is the one that deceives them. Because you need to be able to discern whether this person is a right person for you. Also, you need to learn how to be in a balanced state of your vulnerability. Being in a balanced state of your vulnerability is so key, because it allows you to discern who's good for you and who's not good for you. When someone is not being vulnerable enough, you can tell. When someone's giving you enough vulnerability, you can also tell, because you are in a balanced state. But what's happening is she's not in a balanced state. So her wanting to feel that love and emotion, she got it at the very beginning, the fairy tale, the obsession, the great probably talking at the beginning. I love you on the first date. All of that is a fairy tale. Here's the reality. It takes work now. We don't know if this guy's the right guy for her, because your initial, what drew you in is the emotional aspect. Man, hopefully, hopefully he's a decent guy.
So, yeah, I really want to land in the middle. And I think growing in that maturity in some ways will kind of help me to kind of take what I need from both.
There's the popular adage that you can't love others until you love yourself. Tell me about it.
Period.
But do you feel that though? Or do you feel like you have somebody who's teaching you how to love yourself again?
I think exactly what you just said will lead me to a lot of healing and a lot of growth in my relationship right now.
Listen, can I be honest with you? Okay, look. Let me be real. I definitely feel that and again, as precautionary, because a lot of people would like to think that a relationship is going to heal them, but it actually adds more trauma to a lot of people. Okay, so what I'm going to say is, this guy might be the right guy, and she might be the right woman at the right time, and this may work, and he may be the supplanter, etc. But a lot of times, this is the tearing of the fabric. That if you don't have self-love for you, you tend to tear the fabric, right? Because you've got that also about that orphan spirit. It means that brokenness in you, where when you're in a safe place, you tear it up because you're used to dysfunction. So because you're used to that familiar energy. Hopefully that isn't the case here, but I do think that in this instance that she just needs to take some time out. But putting all the emphasis on, you know, you got somebody who's going to love you to teach you to love yourself. I don't like it, because a lot of people don't end up well. I'm not saying it doesn't happen and it doesn't work. I'm saying a lot of people don't end up well. This usually ends up in something breaking. You know? So she may still take some lessons from this and learn from it. But, you know, I'm not going to say that it's definitely going to be a no-no, but
just
I don't
for
like that.
some
I don't
reason,
like
I'm late to the self-love game. I thought self-love was being really hard on yourself and making sure you're finding success. And that, just for me personally, isn't my self-love isn't that. I'm figuring that out. But I know for me, I'm going to gain a lot of self-love when I really work on my inner voice, because I'm kind of getting away from that, like, overwork yourself and you're only as good as how far you come in life. And now that I'm kind of transitioning away from that, my inner voice is slow to make that change. Once I start to master that and tell myself and feel and believe what I'm saying to myself, I think I will have a lot of growth. This is like a really hard question for me to answer. And I think I'm really being real when I say I haven't landed on it yet. But a big part of me even getting here was like actually learning like what self-care was to me, because I had no concept. So I kind of had that journey, and now I'm taking it a little bit more inward. And like I can just feel how much my partner loves me, and it's just so
refreshing,
like whole. It's not just like a specific little components of me. Like he really does love me as a person. I need to like see that too. And I'm like not there yet, but I think it will be a little bit groundbreaking for us when I do get there.
Is it terrifying?
Groundbreaking for us or groundbreaking for you, sis? Groundbreaking for us or groundbreaking for you, sis? Yeah, I think here's my thing, and I'll keep it short and brief. Here's my thing. You know what? It could work out. It could actually work out. So I'm not going to be against it. What I'm going to say is, but remember, I always tell you guys, when you get to a place of a particular level of healing, one that, you know, because when you see yourself and you were down in the dumps, you know, you were down in the dumps, and then you finally rise out, things that you were on your level, they're no longer your level. When you were eating with the rats and now you eat on fine tables, can you go back to eating with the rats? You can't. So once people get to a certain level of healing, they can't go back. And that's what sometimes destroys relationships too. They realize I was in a relationship of convenience. I hope that's not the case for her. That's what I'm going to say. You know what I mean? But I definitely feel like her journey of healing is going to be really, really important. You know, and hopefully she gets come back again a year later to Shambudi and has a real conversation. But yeah, no, it's interesting. That's what I would say, you know. But yeah, no, I'm gonna leave it there. We've been up to 2 hours. And I really, really appreciate you guys joining us for this live as well. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, you know, tune in for this as well. But yeah, healing is important, you know, and that inner voice that she has, inner critical voice, that needs to be healed, and she will see it in a different light, whether he will like it. And another thing is also, we're talking about her healing. What if he doesn't like that new her? You don't know about that one. You might not like what she is and what she becomes. You understand? Yeah. All right. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of uploads, guys. We appreciate you. Oh wait, did she do this? So I never. What happened here? Did she actually do it? The analyst. Let me just see if I can play it. I want to see if I don't know if she actually didn't do it.
Are you aspiring to? Which ones are you trying to steer clear of? Liking? And this is a concept I came up with before I had kids, and is really important to think about now as I have their safety behind me. because there is something really fun about taking your hands off the brakes and just letting it ride, letting yourself.
I don't think she mentioned it. I don't know what happened. Did she not do the? No, it's done. That's it. They finished. There's no psych part. There's no psych part at all. So I don't know if she said no to it or there wasn't a psych. Maybe the psych person wasn't available today or what. But yeah, nah, there was no psych part. So I don't know. Yeah. That's another story in itself. I'm going to leave that where it is. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification uploads, guys. We appreciate you.